Hey, what's up? I'm Mike Rosica. I wanted to chat real quick about how we're going to be releasing this podcast. And since both Drew Paul Bell and myself have pretty active YouTube channels, what we've decided to do is to split it up. So, on the Young Architect YouTube channel, I'm going to post all of the episodes that are even numbered. So, episode 0, episode 2, 4. I'm going to post all the even numbered episodes. And Drew Paul Bell's going to take all the odd numbered episodes and post them on his channel. And so, to make it easy so you're not bouncing back and forth all these different episodes, I would first say both subscribe to both the Young Architect and the Drew Paul Bell YouTube channels. But what both of us are going to do is we've created a playlist on each of our YouTube channels called the Mike and Drew Architecture Podcast. And in that playlist, it's got all the episodes listed. And even though Drew Paul Bell, posted episode 3 on his channel, I can still add that to the playlist and have it sequential. And to make it even easier, I've created links, 2 links. I have youngarchitect.com/Mike, which will take you to the playlist on Young Architect channel, and youngarchitect.com/Drew, which will take you to the same playlist on Drew's channel. In some ways, it doesn't even matter whose playlist you're watching because they're the same exact videos. And so that's how we're going to do it is, Young Architect will post the even, Drew's got the odd numbers. And then in a couple of weeks down the road, after we get this playlist, this podcast kind of rolling out a little bit faster, we're going to strip the audio. We're just going to take the audio from all these and we're going to actually put it out as a podcast, the same way we publish the Young Architect podcast. We'll post it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We'll get it out there. But for now, we're just releasing these on YouTube. So that's how we're doing it. And I hope you enjoy the new show. Take care, everyone. Welcome to this new show. So this is a new podcast with me, Michael Rosica, and my friend, architect Drew Paul Bell. And we've been talking about this for such a long time, haven't we, Drew?
Yeah, man, it's been a while.
Show? Yeah. So kind of what's going on here is me and Drew have been hanging out for the past, it's been, a couple of months on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, we decided to start Taco Tuesday. And sometimes we've been having tacos and drinks with other people, and sometimes it's just the two of us. But I feel like we've been really consistent during this quarantine. Every Tuesday, I've just been hanging out with Drew. And one of the ideas we've kicked around is starting kind of a new type of, I don't want to use the word podcast, but kind of like a new podcast where it's just me and Drew having a dialogue and a conversation. And, there's no agenda really. It's just kind of hanging out and, just shooting the shit.
Yeah, I think it's cool to just talk about architecture with other people who are within the profession because, I usually make YouTube videos talking about architecture and giving the advice that I wish I had gotten back when I was in college. But sometimes it's through conversations with someone else that you figure out, things that you didn't know how to ask. And I always say that there's there's a quote by Donald Rumsfeld that's talking about there's 3 things that you know. There's the things that you know, there's the things that you don't know, and then there's the things you don't know. I know wood frame construction. I don't know quantum physics, but I'm aware that I don't know quantum physics. But then there's a bunch of other things out there that I don't even realize that they're out there.
Yeah.
And so even within the field of architecture, there are certain things that you could decide to go make a video about, but it's through conversations that sometimes you hit on those things you didn't even know that you wanted to ask. So that's part of the goal with this kind of weekly video thing.
Yeah, I love it. And for me personally, I already have the Young Architect podcast and we're recording like crazy, but the one thing the Young Architect podcast is really about interviewing future leaders and cool people that are doing stuff and in some ways taking the spotlight off of me and putting it on someone else, on the guest. And so, I don't know, for me personally, Drew, too, I feel like I kind of just need a place where we could just shoot the shit and talk about architecture and just kind of have a fun hangout sesh. And I'm drinking a White Claw right now. Drew, what are you drinking?
I got a little tequila. I like
Yeah?
my tequila neat. Some people, sometimes they get some shit for drinking tequila rather than taking shots. But I feel like the people who criticize you for not taking a shot of tequila have only ever had bad tequila.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have some good tequila, and I love to enjoy some tequila.
I like drinking tequila plain too, because I think it's when you start putting all this sugar and all this crap inside of it,
Yeah, man.
That's where the hangover comes from. It's not from the tequila itself. It's all this sugar and all this crap that you mix together.
It's also mixing drinks, because I've had nights out where like I've had only tequila and woke up the next day feeling, rough from staying up all night, but pretty much feeling right as rain. But then I've had other nights where it's like a bunch of beer and then like some tequila immediately afterwards, and that will mess me up. So you gotta respect the tequila. You know what I mean?
What kind of tequila are you drinking, Drew?
I got Hornitos. I got some Milagro up there too, but I'm drinking some Hornitos today. The Souza.
Sounds like gold. Yeah, there you go.
Not the gold one.
I don't know anything about tequila.
I don't do the dark tequila. I'm not good with that one.
Yeah, me too. I don't know anything about tequila. What's kind of funny is I went to the liquor store the other day and I bought a bottle of tequila, and I don't know what I usually just get Patron. I get the clear bottle of Patron, but I saw they had the tequila that's made by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. They have his tequila brand in the liquor store. So I was like, I've been seeing this guy talking about this tequila on Instagram lately. So I bought it. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that one of the dark ones? Because it looks like it was, if I remember
clear.
right.
It's a clear tequila.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's called Terra Mana or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to try that.
Yeah.
I haven't come across it yet.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. I've only had a taste of it so far, but yeah. All of it. So Drew, I was thinking that, starting this new show, why don't we talk about what we're both working on? Just in general. What are you working on, Drew?
In the office, outside the office?
Both.
In the office. We got a couple types of projects going on right now. One of them, we have a relationship with somebody at the city of New York. Excuse me, it's really at Cushman and Wakefield, who is like this big real estate company. I don't know all that they do. I think it's a lot of project managing, a lot of real estate, like renting real estate to finding rental properties for giant organizations such as New York City. And so there's a bunch of New York City departments. They'll go in and we'll go do like a site report on a building and figure out, is this a viable building for the department we're trying to find a piece of property for. So we end up like typing up reports. We do property analysis, P&Es, and doing programs and estimates and that kind of thing. So we got a few of those things in the mix right now, and I don't know how much of that I'm like allowed to actually talk about with specifics.
Yeah.
But we're doing that. We have another one that, again, I know I can't talk about specifics, but it's about there's a media company looking at relocating. A lot of our bread and butter is media companies. So they're looking at relocating one of their buildings. They have tons of properties and tons of locations, but like they're looking at getting a new one, or relocating a few offices to this other location. So I'm kind of working on that, but they're doing their due diligence right now.
Yeah.
And I think work is going to start coming down the pipe in a month or two. So we've done some test fits for them to figure out how they could lay out the space in this new building that's already existing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would turn into some work before too long. We've had a good relationship with these guys for a long time.
Yeah, good.
So that's what I'm working on in the office. Outside the office, I'm trying to work on, I am working on a new service, a new website. I've been having the YouTube channel for a long time, and it's been a while since I've uploaded a new video, but what I want to start launching now is a new service where I can review students' portfolios for any students or graduates, people looking for new jobs. A buddy of mine is a writer, and he's trying to become an author. He's trying to become a published author. Mm-hmm. And he and I were talking, and he was saying that, he's hiring an editor to look over his manuscript. And his editor is somebody who's done it before. They've become a New York Times bestselling author, and they have a side business where they will review someone's manuscript. And that's necessary. They're trying to get your foot in the door as a writer, as an author. And so he and I were talking, and he was like, is there anything you could do like that in architecture? And, there's people doing plan reviews and stuff like that. But I saw an opportunity to, provide a new service, a business where I could review portfolios for someone. So the website is called Designlabreviews.com. and it's up and running right now, but I haven't officially announced it until now, I guess. I'm going to have a few different product offerings where it'll be like a single review or multiple reviews. We can do a coaching call. There's details and stuff on the website. But so I've been working on the website on that, and I still got some details to work out. But I'm real happy with the idea and how it's come along, and I think it's going to be a cool service to offer.
I love it. So the idea is you're gonna help people with their portfolios and give them feedback and kind of give them that outsider's opinion. Help them see things that they might have not been able to see by themselves.
Yeah, man. Because a lot of times, like the work that you're working on, you have such a steep perspective on your own projects. It's hard to know what works, what doesn't, and sometimes even just knowing what's good is challenging when you're new. And sometimes you need that outside feedback. I know that I definitely did. And I talked to professors back when I was in college to get their advice, and they throw their spare 10 minutes at me, but I never felt like I ever met somebody who really gave my portfolio the attention it needed. And you asking your classmates is cool, but they oftentimes don't know much more than you do. And if you're like in the profession, like you're in the job, you're looking to get a new job, change offices, you can't take it into the office and ask the principal to review it because that's silly. So so I want to be able to provide that value to people. It's helped me. Like the little advice that I got from people on the way was huge. And then even like when I worked at my first office, it was like an award-winning design firm called Robert M. Kane Architect in Atlanta. And while I was there, I got to work on the design awards submittals. And in doing those submittals, I got that back and forth feedback from the boss, from the principal of the firm on how to curate the submittal. And so I got that in a sense, and now I can go apply that feedback I got to portfolios. Meanwhile, those people I don't think ever really got that back and forth feedback. And they can't go get it at their offices now because, like I said, you can't ask your principal to review your portfolio when you're looking for a new job.
Yeah, totally. I love it. I like your analogy too about the kind of the writing, because that's one of the things that I do is, as a blogger, everything I write, I run it past another person. And it's, I forget words. I forget to use the word the or and. It's always the short, like 2 or 3 letter words. For some reason, I can read it 10 times and the words are there, and then someone else reads it and they're not there. So it's like always getting an outside perspective. I think is going to be a huge value.
Yeah, man. I think that you really need outside eyes, fresh eyes on anything that you're working on, even within the architecture profession. I think it's invaluable to have somebody look or redline your drawing sets. Even if you've been doing this for, I don't know, like 10 years or however long you've been doing it, I still think it's good to have somebody with fresh eyes to take a look at what you've been drawing and make sure you didn't forget something, because it's easier to catch mistakes when it's on paper than it is once it's, getting built.
Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be this is going to be a really good little side hustle for you, Drew.
Yeah, man, I think it'll be cool. I'm looking forward to it. It's an idea that I came up with my buddy years ago when I was doing the ARE. I didn't have the time to devote to building it out right then. But now that I've passed ARE, got the license, moved to New York, got settled, it's been time to pull the trigger on it. So I'm trying to make that happen.
I love it. Good for you, dude. That's awesome.
You got a lot of stuff in the works too, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
What's up with you?
I just realized the other day that I'm supposed to be on vacation right now. I was supposed to go to Belize this year. I was gonna take a week off and just hang out on the beach in Belize, and coronavirus happened, and so that whole thing got canceled. So I've been kind of struggling to, keep my brain working while I'm supposed to be on vacation. I've been working on Young Architect Conference got postponed. We pulled the plug on it way early. There was no way we would have been able to pull off the conference this summer out in Portland, Maine, with all of the unknowns of the coronavirus quarantine and stuff. And so we ended up, instead of just canceling it, we ended up just postponing it to 2021. So we're still going to do it. And then, it's not my style to just sit around and wait for a year for the next thing to happen. So we've decided to create an online event called the Young Architect Summer Series. And I don't want to say it's like Young Architect Conference, but online, but it's kind of a similar layout. We're going to have keynote speakers and workshops and panels. And what's actually nice is we're actually able, because when we do an in-person event, we're kind of limited with geographical space. Space is always the issue. And so with this online event, we can have more speakers and more workshops and more things happening. And so I've been working around the clock, getting speakers and organizing this event. And even though it's not conference, it's really consuming, and kind of figuring out what the checkout process is and how to get all the people. So everyone that bought a ticket for the Young Architect Conference already has a ticket for the summer series. And then we're going to sell tickets to people at a lower rate who want to attend as well. So I've just been trying to hash out all these technical challenges of taking people's money and signing them up and making sure everyone's got the same data and is all on the same page, and coaching some of the speakers and workshop leaders and just getting everyone signed up. But yeah, so it's exhausting. That's what I've been working on. It's been fun though. These things are always a blast. So
yeah, man, that's cool. I think too that, like, we're recording this during the coronavirus shutdown, and we hadn't said that yet, but I think it's going to be important for people to be able to, like, kind of have something outside their realm, like we can't exactly get out of the apartment or like your town right now to go on vacation or to the office or whatever, but like there's still, and we can't escape into sports right now either, right? But there's still kind of having something to like look forward to and get out, kind of check out at least mentally into something bigger, I think is super valuable. It allows you to kind of draw energy from all these other people doing cool things out in the profession.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing we've been focusing a lot on is kind of the networking side of it. And me and Joanna, who works for Young Architect, had a big brainstorm the other day. Is, what does networking look like through Zoom, and how do we use the Zoom platform to get people interacting with each other? And we've been brainstorming all different types of networking events, and maybe we do like a trivia or like a speed networking, or just a regular old hangout where we just drink some beer, on our own behind the computers. And so we've been kind of brainstorming all that out. And one of the things that's kind of like true Young Architect mission philosophies is always under promise, over deliver. Those are words that I live by. And so we're actually looking at actually starting this event before the event actually begins, and having a bunch of workshops and giving value and networking events. So you're going to see rolling out pretty soon, Drew.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I've been hearing some of the details on this, and I've been happy about what I've heard.
Yeah. What's beautiful, and what I never realized kind of about all the Young Architect stuff, is it allows me to kind of create this platform, this really strengthen the community. I mean, you were a keynote speaker last year at the Young Architect Conference, and to even kind of loop you around and keep you're going to be a part of the content creators thing, but like to kind of keep this whole like community and this infrastructure of speakers, of leaders, and to just kind of like using the community to really lift up the community itself is really what the goal's been about all along. So it's been fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. We should get you, Drew, talking about portfolios at the summer series.
Yeah. That's the plan.
Is that something you'd be interested in?
Launched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. All right. So Drew, earlier today I was, going through my emails, and I get about 50 emails a day from the American Institute of Architects. And I'll be honest with you, I usually don't look at them because they send so much goddamn email. But for some reason, I just felt compelled to open one of these emails from them. And inside there was a link to an article on Arc Daily called 10 Thoughts on the Future of Practice. And I read through it. I thought it was really well written and pretty interesting. And I thought this may be a great thing for maybe, on this first episode of our new show, maybe we just read this article and and just kind of share our insights to kind of what this guy had to say about his insights on the future of the profession. Does that sound good, Drew?
Yeah, man. I like it. Let's go.
All right. So this guy that wrote this article, his name's Phil Bernstein. Drew, you had heard of him before, right?
Yeah. He was the CEO. He was the CEO of Autodesk, right? Or was it Revit specifically? I feel like he was CEO of
Autodesk, former vice president.
Okay, vice president.
So it says he worked for Clark Pelly Architects, and he was a lecturer at Yale University. So in his article called The 10 Thoughts on the Future of Practice, he said, in February this year, I gave a short talk to our Yale students about the economy and their employment prospects, suggesting that while all indicators remained strong and jobs were plentiful, it had been quite some time since our last downturn. Having seen several during my career, I suggested that they would likely see a recession sometime in their future, but cast doubt on whether we see anything as serious as 2008. And it says, if only. If only it's too early to be making nuanced arguments about the future as we face down what is undoubtedly going to be a much more serious situation in the second half of 2020. So here are 10 first thoughts about how our profession may be impacted and potentially transformed as a result. Choose 2 or 3 as prompts to consider the future once the crisis has passed. So he breaks this down. So here are the 10 topics. And I was thinking we'll just maybe read one at a time and just riff off it. So the first one was economics. The second was demographics. The third was jobs. The fourth was technology. The fifth was practice methods. The sixth is practice structure. The seventh is construction. The 8 is talent. 9 was space. And 10 was the city. And they're all pretty short. They're just a little paragraph on each. All right, ready for the first one, Drew?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. Economics. While there are mixed reports of how hard a recession might hit the industry, it's already clear that certain building types, particularly retail and commercial office, will fall off the profession's radar for several years, while overall the AEC sector contracts across the board. Another wave of fierce fee competition as surviving firms fight for contracts will ensue. Can some firms fight above the fray? So what do you think about that, Drew?
All right, so like I wasn't in the profession during the last recession. I went into school. I graduated college in 2000. Excuse me. I graduated high school in 2009. So it was literally my senior year. I was watching my my college fund go down the tank, knowing that I was about to have to start a degree, and I went into the studying architecture, thinking like I'm either timing this perfectly, and this whole recession is going to be over when I graduate, or I'm a complete idiot for walking right into this. And thankfully, I graduated from the 5-year degree at like perfect timing. It was right when things were really bouncing back. But what I've heard about the 2008 crisis was they said that the large firms who could afford to do like lower fees did lower fees. Mm-hmm. And then that pushed out some of these smaller architecture firms, and it made some of those smaller architecture firms go out of business. That scares me a little bit because it seems like kind of a war of attrition, you know? Mm-hmm. Like if you can just afford to hang out long enough. But I'm also not sure how true that really, I mean, they would know better than me, but it seems like if you're talking about a large firm is also going to have a ton of people. Yeah. So maybe they're also laying off.
It's shuffling around.
They must also be having a bunch of layoffs. So like, let's say they're lowering their expenses.
It gets into that a little bit more kind of farther down the article.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
About kind of, but.
And yeah, and well, I guess we'll get into that with skill. But you know, I think that with a lot of recessions, it's usually not that everything goes away. It's that the mediocre middle goes away, and everybody below.
Do you think that retail and commercial are going to take a huge hit?
See, that's interesting to me. I feel like I think retail is already taking a big hit because of Amazon. I think that, you know, we had some clients who were retail, and they told us that they were already seeing decreased numbers, and they were talking about converting their space to real estate for offices. But now, like, what happens with offices? There's a lot of people saying that they think people are going to stop working in firms. They're going to stop working in offices. They're going to start working from home instead. I would be interested to know. All right. I think people throw around the word everyone and no one like it's candy, and it's not the way it works, right? It's not that everyone's going to start working from home. Like, that's easy to say, but it's not exactly true. Is it 12% of people, 12% of firms, of companies are going to start working from home? Is it 40% are going to start working from home? Is it 90%? You know, I'm willing to bet, having like a complete amateur understanding of statistics, I bet you it would be about 12%, because that's like a standard deviation. So I bet you're going to see probably 12% people, maybe 12% of firms start working from home. Yeah. Companies, whatever. Yeah. I don't think it would be everyone. It's going to be less. But all right, so then does that open up opportunities for architects? Let's say who goes and occupies those spaces? Who goes and occupies that space? Do we convert commercial space to to residential. Like here in New York, you could convert some spaces to residential because there's so many people. There's almost a housing crisis, rents are so high. So there could still be opportunities there. Maybe it's not going to be those sectors, but I mean, this kind of way saying that those sectors are going to take a hit.
Yeah, I think what I learned in the last recession. I mean, I graduated school in 2007. Who still had work? It was the clients that already had a lot of money. It was the government, and it was the universities, it was the institutions, and they kept going. When they kept everyone employed, they kept me employed during the recession. A lot of the private clients. I worked for a firm. My firm had a lot of religious clients. We did a lot of church work, and that stuff just got yanked out from under our feet. And the residential stuff went off. That got yanked, but it was the government projects, the city. That's kept me alive. And then I ended up going to work for the city after that. But yeah, usually the government takes its hit after the recession's kind of is either on its way out. That was what happened to the city, is that they kept working through the worst of it, and then after the recession finally caught up to them, and with all their budgets a year or two later, when they weren't bringing in the income there used to be. So
interesting. That makes sense. I never thought about that. So you're saying that the government sees the hit in the years following.
Yeah, that was all the budgets got hit. Everything got slashed because they just didn't have the income. Even like a year or two after the private sector started to turn around. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's read number 2. So demographics. If the downturn lasts more than a year, another lost generation of students taking their considerable design and thinking talents into an environment that values design thinking will leave the profession never to return. If the 2008 recession eliminated some of the older baby boomers who are unable to grasp technology and keep their firms alive, the last of the boomers may find themselves with the same fate. But with retirement portfolios largely destroyed, there may be hangers on, people hanging around because they can't retire. So what do you think about that? Actually, I'm a part of that lost generation. I always feel like when I graduated 2007, there's always like a recruiter chasing me down because they're trying to find someone that graduated school around that time I have that has, X amount of experience, that's a licensed architect or something like that.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've spoken with recruiters who told me exactly that. They were like, because I was just on the cusp, and they were like, there's almost no one who graduated in 2012 or 2010 who got a job in architecture. And so when I graduated in 2014, I was right on that cusp. So like there's people who are trying to fill that slot in the experience gap, right? They want somebody with, 6 years of experience right now, 7 years of experience. And if you're kind of on that cusp, like you're in demand now, but back then you weren't. And that's crazy to me, the idea of like a lost generation.
Yeah.
But that happens though.
Yeah.
And he's talking about two different ends of the spectrum. He's talking about the young people now and also the older people who have been in the profession for a long time. Like if they haven't adapted to some change, is it time for them to step out and retire? And dude, I don't even know how to begin talking about like retirement stuff. Like, I don't know about that. Sounds like a tough spot to be in.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's part of the scenario. Yes, we lose people, but then again, too, we still lose people, even if there's not a recession going on because of the nature of the work and kind of the profession as it is. So I guess there's pros and cons to it. All right. Number 3, jobs. So new jobs, not many. Firms will trim their excess and dead weight and may do some strategic replacement, meaning when the upturn comes, there's a shortage of talent as firms don't have the reserves to keep staff despite the high cost of replacement. Will the talent be there to be hired? Remote work may be a desirable option to improve work-life balance. So I guess if we're talking about traditional practicing of architecture firms, but one of the things I've kind of predicted for a long time is I've said it even before all this happened, I think there's going to be a rise in the freelancer market. And rather than firms hiring staff, hiring independent contractors. And so, I don't know, let's use Drew for an example. Instead of you working for one company, you might have two projects at two completely different companies that you might give, 50% of your time on, and that's how you stay employed. And instead of hiring you as an employee, they're working with more on people on a contract basis as more of a freelancer market. I could see, this is like my vision, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I just see it happening, especially with all the freelancers that I work with, all the young architect stuff. So,
do you think that works well?
Yes and no. It'd be great to have dedicated employees, but if I don't have projects for them to work on, then I would rather be paying people on a per project basis. And I think sometimes too, the consultants would rather be working on a per project basis and giving them the flexibility to kind of make their own hours. And so I don't know, there's pros and cons to it, I guess, too.
It probably depends on the firm. I feel like all right, here's another part of the same topic. He's talking about working from home. How easy do you think it is working from home? How easy do you think architecture can pull that off?
Yes, not easily, but yes, they can. I've been working from home since 2015, and it was a real struggle for the first couple of years because it was great. I didn't have to show up at the cubicle in the Portland building every day, but that forced a routine in my life. And suddenly, I got really lonely and trying to no one would know if I showed up to work or not, or this and that. And so I think, and that was when I started, eventually I started hiring people to do the work with me and employees. And now I feel like I spend most of my day on the phone with people, but early on, that wasn't the case, and it got really depressing and lonely. And so I think, yes, it's hard. Sometimes it's easy. But yeah, it's Courtney.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, he said, "What's up?" She brought. I was craving a Coca-Cola earlier, so she went out and grabbed a couple of Cokes.
Nice.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
Do you think that? All right, so you're talking about it though from a personal standpoint. I'm wondering, do you think the firm could work that way? Because I feel like I look at some of my friends who do business consulting, and to me, it makes sense for them to work from home. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm pretty tied to the multiple screens, the monitors, talking to other people on the project. We have to be able to communicate graphically half the time. It's almost like we're not speaking in proper English. We're pointing and stuff, and is it going to look like this or is it like that? And I think it's easier to have those conversations in-house. It's also, and all right, so let's say maybe we could work from home, if you're well integrated into an office already. But we had somebody come work at my firm back in Atlanta at one point, and she wanted to work remote because she was still working part-time on a project back in New York, and she had moved down to Atlanta with her husband, and it was almost impossible to train her on our software when she wasn't in the office every single day. Yeah. And we're trying to communicate over email, teaching her how to use ArchiCAD. She's used to Revit. And, and let's say you take that out of the equation, even if you're moving from a Revit firm to another Revit firm, they still have office standards. You're still learning how they do things. And so picking up how you do stuff in their office seems like a challenge. One of my friends back in Atlanta was working for apartmentguide.com. He was a webpage designer. And over there, he said that he was allowed to work from home, but they made him come into the office for the first 6 weeks, 6 months, whatever it was, to get that training under his belt before he could go back home.
That's a good idea, just to get people locked in too, feeling like they're a part of something rather than just collecting a paycheck from this company. Yeah.
Here's my other question about the working from home thing. All right, so there's been a bunch of articles about the open plan, and they're like, they thought that the open plan was all the rage, but people actually hate the open plan. And it's and now they're saying it was just deployed to lower construction costs and make more money. And now they're like, oh, everyone wants to work from home. But what happens when they realize everybody hates working from home? And actually that was just deployed to get rid of paying for real estate in the first place. I'm not so sure that that's actually valuable for the employees. Now there's a lot, but I say that, and then there's a ton of people who actually do love working from home. Everybody's different. So it's hard to tell for sure, but I don't think it's as black and white as what every blog in the world would have you believe, when then they're like, oh, well, we're just going to all start working from home now. We're going to stop going into offices. It's
Yeah.
going to be the downfall of commercial real estate. I don't know, man.
Well,
I
even
see it
then,
taking a hit.
it's good to have an office. It's good to have a headquarters. I've even done, WeWork offices for a while. I was out in Portland all summer. I had a WeWork office and I lived out of that
That
freaking
sounds
thing.
cool to me.
Yeah, it was kind of cool too to like have all the, as my own business. I work for myself, so I call the shots. So it was cool to have that as a resource to use. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
This item also talks about cutting excess dead weight, and going back to a point we talked about earlier. I've heard that within these recessions, it's not that every single person loses their job. It's probably more like mediocre people lose their jobs. Now, there's probably plenty of great people who just find themselves in really unfortunate circumstances, and probably plenty of good people will lose their job too. But if you look at like video rental stores, all right, Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore because Netflix was a better product. But in Atlanta, there is a video rental store called Videodrome that, maybe things have changed since the coronavirus happened, but like last time I checked, they were still in business. And they were a niche video rental store. Like if you wanted to go get like film noir, you wanted to get French films from whenever, like they had all these like niche things rather than Blockbuster tried to do like literally the Blockbuster movies, the ones that everybody would want to go check out and see. That was their business model. So maybe the Videodrome business model was a higher quality business model, right? It was a more niche, so it was also more high quality. I would suspect that there's room for the people who are doing the best to still survive something like this. And now that's a rule of thumb. That doesn't mean that you're not still susceptible to a downturn in the market,
Yeah.
But I think it's important when they're talking about these doom and gloom scenarios. I think that most of the time the best defense is going on offense and making yourself as valuable as you can.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's always an opportunity, and there's a weird silver lining to a lot of these situations. And so I think learning to try to make yourself as most valuable as you can and take advantage of it, and trying to get ahead. So when we come out of it, you're in a better spot. So, All right, number 4, technology. So the last recession saw the professions transition from CAD to BIM. 11 years later, there is a much larger array of tools available: big data analytics, reality capture, computational data, machine learning, to name a few, and lots of build tech development. Some practices will embrace these tools to redefine their capabilities. Others, like many in 2008, will use new technologies toward very old ends, making better drawings. That's what it says. So I guess some people are going to take advantage of it. What do you think about that, Drew?
I think that's going back to exactly what we were just talking about. Some firms are going to use the new technology to produce higher quality, right? Like better drawings, like better service for their clients. And the ones who have kind of been holding on to the way things used to be, those are probably going to be the ones who are more likely to fall off. I think that the ones who have adapted the best to new technology are going to be the ones who are the most equipped moving forward. And so they're probably the most equipped to survive any type of recession or depression.
Yeah, I agree. All right, practice methods. So as entirety of practice has demonstrated an ability to work digitally and remotely, talent networks for firms will widen beyond locale and intensified database processes in deliverable for firms will experiment further. Open opportunities to create new value through digital service like analytics, digital fabrication, and augmentation reality experience. So talent networks for firms will widen beyond locale. I think that's true. I think that's kind of standard of just the rise of the internet. We're not geographically tied together the way we once were. And you can find experts in whatever you need from all over the world.
Yeah, I think architecture is still tied to the physical because of what it is. But it allows you to communicate across bounds. But if you're talking about communicating across beyond the locale, that increases the competition. So now if you were the best architect in Macon, Georgia, near where I grew up and when I was a kid, now, you were probably always competing with the architects up in Atlanta,
Yep.
but now were you also competing with the architects in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Charleston, Savannah? What
Yep.
about in Los Angeles, or New York? So with that broadening the locale, like that happens as well. But then he's also talking about the effects of like database processes and deliverables.
Yeah, I think this ties in nicely
Analytics.
with the next one too. Let's dive into the next one. It's number 6, practice structure. So most practices move their work seamlessly out of the office and into their respective homes, showing that a physical office may not be essential to running a firm. A new generation of younger, digitally facile practices with workers and talent distributed globally will emerge to compete with traditional incumbents. They'll be lithe, flexible, less subject to economic dynamics, and won't know each other as well. The design version of the gig economy may emerge, focus less on full projects and more on discrete tasks. That's kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So these two are talking about practice methods and practice structure.
Yeah.
Now, so like how does so we got the technological advances, and it almost seems trite now to talk about the value of BIM. I'm surprised to find out that some firms still use AutoCAD. Even back in 2014, when I graduated, it still surprised me that some firms were still needed to be convinced that BIM was better than something like AutoCAD. And I guess there's obviously a price factor in that. Not every firm can afford it, but So then we got the price structure, the practice structure. So they're saying that. So now with these BIM softwares, you can log into the cloud and start working on it. And within ArchiCAD, it's called Teamwork. That's what we use in my office. I'm not sure what it's called in Revit, but like you can basically check out parts. You can be working from wherever on the same model. I know it works really well in ArchiCAD, and so it seems like we've talked about this 1,000 times, but it really does enable you to work from home. That was not an option back in the 90s, and it is today. And it seems obvious to a bunch of us who are like younger and used to it, but there's probably some people still holding on to the way things used to be.
Yeah. I never learned BIM. I'm a 2D AutoCAD LT kind of guy. I never learned
really?
it. No, I never learned it because I always worked in small firms and it was always AutoCAD based. And actually I worked in an ArchiCAD office back in the day, in my early days, like 2002 or whatever.
Nice.
But yeah, I always just did 2D AutoCAD, and then I ended up taking a role as a project manager, and it kind of doing drawings and documents wasn't really my job anymore, and so I never learned Revit, but I understand the value in it. I support it. So
yeah,
and I'm probably never going to learn it, to be honest with you, because I don't know. I just don't see myself doing documents again anytime in the near future. So.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm kind of interested in getting to that kind of a place as well. But, who knows? All right, number 7, construction. Between health concerns, immigration, supply stream instability, and pricing pressures, buildings will turn strongly to automation on the site and prefabrication off of it. The necessary tools and processes require digital infrastructure unsuited to traditional drawings, and builders will find it, either from their architects or elsewhere. Government's funding of projects may drive digital protocols as a requirement, and the industry would be forced towards standards finally as a result. So it sounds like he's saying that the government may start forcing standards when it comes to BIM.
Yeah, I support that. And I like the idea of automation on site. More of that. Building construction technology, yes.
What do you see as, what's an example of that?
I was thinking like more like drones flying around, helping figure things out, and robots laying bricks and stuff like that. I'd love to see that happen. That's gonna take its toll on the labor market too, but that's one thing that I didn't see in here actually, and I don't think it is. It might have been under jobs, kind of the crisis that's happening with the the labor market right now. You know, they're having such a hard time finding people to be plumbers and masons and wood framers and stuff like that. I think the trades is going to grow as, you know, with when we come out of, if we're towards, when we come out in the next boom, that there's going to be such a drive, I think, in the trades and a shift more towards those types of professions. So
yeah, because like I'm honestly skeptical about how much on-site. Okay, well, I guess we're talking about prefabrication.
Yeah.
So prefabrication makes sense. That's well defined. Like we know what that is, and there's a lot of value in that. It's easier to construct elements in a warehouse under a climate controlled situation and then bring it on site with people who are specialized to do it all the time. But in terms of automation, like bricklaying stuff or like plumbing, I feel like that's so specific to a particular building. I don't think you can just automate that, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like I keep reminding myself of like, there was all these promises about BIM, you know, that you were going to be able to just cut the elevation and then just have your elevation. That's not true. You still get the line weights are still all messed up. There's things showing that shouldn't be showing.
Yep.
Like, so we're taking the time it would take to draw an elevation and you're probably reducing it down to like 60% that amount of time. It's not reducing it down to 2% the time. It's less, but it's not so much less that it eliminates everything.
It slowly works its way towards 2% as we start to work through the kinks of it as time goes on.
Maybe in the changes,
yeah,
you know, part of the project, the CA, when you start making design changes, maybe that gets reduced down a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm skeptical of the idea that automation is just gonna like make this utopic world where nobody has to think about anything ever again, because it's like the automated thing still has all kinds of bugs in it, and that's what I spend spend a lot of my day catching those types of mistakes in the BIM model.
Yeah, I have this very optimistic and view of having machines help us do more basic tasks. I know, but you know, the machine is only as smart as the person operating it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So. All right. Number 8, talent. Survival of the fittest suggests that some of the best firms of this decade will emerge from the crucible of the crisis, and today's students will watch carefully from the academic sidelines, preparing themselves for the new realities of the recovery and demanding from their educators what they think is important to prepare them for the workplace. That was all one sentence. The survivors will define that talent agenda, which is likely to be a heady mix of technological prowess, ability to collaborate directly and remotely, and flexible work style and technique.
I'm gonna be a little critical of that because I don't know if any of the architecture students really know what they need to be successful in the profession, because I think it's a vastly different world. And to say that the academic, let's talk about how do you train somebody to have a heady mix of technological prowess, ability to collaborate directly and remotely, and flexible work style and technique. I don't know that any professor knows how to implement that in college, and I'm not sure how many college students know how to have faith in somebody doing that. I agree that talent, I believe in the survival of the fittest thing. I see, you know, I'm willing to bet that that's going to play a part of things. But I don't know, to say the students are watching carefully from the academic sidelines, preparing themselves for new realities of recovering, I think that's what needs to happen. I don't think it's going to be, I don't think just because you're in school guarantees that's going to happen. I feel like if you're one of those people in college, you got to be focused on, you got to be watching that. I think you as an individual have to watch out for yourself to make sure that you're going to get prepared for what you need to get prepared for. Go out, do that studying that you need to do, research stuff on the side. Maybe you got to be the one who presses your professors, or you take the lead on some project that you're working on. You say, hey, listen, I want to figure out more about like this one thing, you know, whether it's working remotely or whatever. I think a lot of that has to come down to the individual. I don't think the school institution is necessarily knows what's best to survive in the profession.
Yeah. I think I agree with this survival of the fittest. Some firms are going to stick around, and we're going to get rid of a lot of fluff. But the part about the school is the part that I don't really get. It's, you know, I stopped looking at and caring about star architects the minute I started working in architecture firms. And I don't know, it's what they're writing about in the magazines and what's going on with Bjarke Ingels is not, as an architect, it's not part of my reality. And it just doesn't, all the projects I've worked on, it didn't really make or break anything for me. And so, well, yes, I agree. The part about the students and the educators, I guess, I don't know. It just seems like it's two completely disconnected things, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. On that point, though, I talked to you about this like the other week. A buddy of mine works at Bjork Ingles Group, and he's told me kind of how the firm is structured, because this guy works in there. They got a bunch of different teams. They got some teams who are working on projects, but they also got teams who are specialists in particular fields. My buddy in particular is working on the model making team. He's not building models for any one particular project. He's working with the project teams on helping each of those people, guiding them on how they should build models for their projects.
Yeah.
And he's essentially training them. And they got tons of people, tons of different groups. The marketing team, they got the model making team, the BIM team, the whatever you can think of. And then they got someone else who runs around and knows who needs help with what, and helps make those connections. There's a firm who's actually working on A, great design, B, they have a proper business model structure, and they seem to be doing really well. And I don't know what their financials, their books look like, but I think that this is a situation of survival of the fittest. I think that there are so many firms who don't train their employees. Because I talked to the office manager at our office. She went to some meeting with Dell Tech, who fixed our software. Point is, I got my hands on this report, and they had surveyed all these different architecture firms. And one of the primary needs in all these firms was that they need to do a better job at training their employees. They all say that they do, but most of them don't. And it's kind of like going to the gym, or calling your mom, or cleaning your room. So you say you're going to do it, you say you need to do it, but you don't really. And it's just simple as just doing the basics. It's like, if you actually train your employees, you're probably going to have a better group. But if you feel like, if you're the frazzled architect and that's your identity, you're like, no, I'm too busy to train my employees, then you're not going to have a talented workforce.
Yeah.
And
that's where the survival of the fittest comes in too, is,
yeah,
I got two people that work for me, and they play such a crucial role in my success. And, I'd be screwed if they left me. So, yeah, I think that also plays a part too, is, getting the people to the loyalty too, to keep working for you. And I think that plays a huge part in kind of being the fittest as well.
I think it's important to train people to get that talent, Yeah. I think it's going to be the firms who have the proper structures.
Yep. All right. Space, number 9. Some of the ineffable priorities of design will give way to the more epidemiological considerations. I hate big words like this. Big Yale architect words like this.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Like epidemiology? That's what it's talking about.
Epidemiological considerations. Okay, whatever that means. How does this space perform in a pandemic? Are occupants more or less healthy? Can it be cleaned? Can it perform technically, spatially, aesthetically under new rules of interaction and social distance? Yes. I think there's gonna be some changes with codes and stuff like that. Yeah. I see that's gonna happen. I think it's kind of a given. It's already started. There's plexiglass screen panels up all over the supermarket now.
Do you think that's gonna stay up?
I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Those types of changes are interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because
fast too. All of a sudden, like at the beginning of this whole thing, overnight, there's plexiglass panels everywhere.
Right. There's a lot of people talking about how, the world's never going to go back to normal. This is the new normal. And I agree with the concept about the new normal and all that. But I think human beings are going to keep doing what human beings do. Yeah. Like, I don't think we're going to stop having music festivals. I don't think we're going to stop having bars. We're not going to stop having restaurants. The businesses in place right now might not be in place. It might be a different restaurant 2 years from now. And there's going to be an iffy time period, right? Like when you come back. And I was talking to you about this last week. We can talk about when anybody's coming back, but I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure when I'm ready to go back. Yeah. Let's say we open up tomorrow. I'm still torn about whether or not I should go sit at a restaurant or not. But I know that I'm not giving that up for the rest of my life. I'm going to be 40 or 50 or 80, and I'm going to still be going to restaurants. Like, that's not going away in the long run. But some of these changes, it makes me wonder which changes are here to stay. I don't think you can make codes that are designed to keep people 6 feet away forever.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. And we're talking about how to make things clean, how make sure it can be cleaned. That makes sense to me. That might be reasonable. But I don't think, how do you even do that? Do we eliminate carpets?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was in the pharmacy the other day. I went to CVS and I was looking at the pharmacy, and they've got it's under lockdown. I mean, they've got tons of plexiglass, and I was kind of thinking about it, that I could see that sticking around. You got someone that's sick that's going to pick up a prescription. That's a petri dish for passing germs around is the pharmacy. So I could see those types of, maybe some codes around something like that. But I agree with you.
Yeah, maybe even almost like the movie theater when you go to pick up the ticket, or for the baseball game, you go up to the window. I can imagine that becoming more common.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see that at the greeter at the restaurant.
Yeah. All right, number 10, cities. So cities have been hardest. Cities have been hardest. This article, man, it's like a rough draft. Yeah, they didn't. I don't.
See, they needed an editor to look over this.
See that this article was originally published, and no, it was originally published in the Architect's newspaper. That's probably where it should be. I wonder if the Architect's newspaper version is any different. Let's see here real quick. Let's click on that. Let's read number 10 on the Architect's.
We don't need to troll anybody.
Yeah, no, there's the same spelling mistakes on the Architect's newspaper. All right, so here we go. Number 10. The cities have been hardest by COVID-19. Yeah, it's missing. Cities have been hit hardest by COVID-19, calling into question the challenges of proximity and density. If social distancing and homestay are regular strategies to manage pandemic, the changing nature of urban space and the potential rival of the more spacious suburbs. Let me straight that over. If social distancing and homestay are regular strategies to manage pandemic, the changing nature of urban space and the potential rival of the more spacious suburbs are opportunities for architects to rethink and redefine fundamentals of living. So that's 10 cities. True, what do you think about that? You just moved from the suburbs to New York City.
I think the suburbs are stupid, and I hate the suburbs. Now, I grew up in a small town in a suburb in the middle of nowhere, a suburb of nothing but a military base. And the town was bored out of my mind. And when I told these people I wanted to live in New York, they'd be like, "Oh, what makes you think you want to live in New York? Bless your heart." And they would challenge me on this. They would be like, "No, you don't want to live in New York City. Everybody thinks they want to live in New York City, but they all come back. You'll see." And I'm like, "No, fuck you. You're wrong. I'm very happy in New York City." And my thing is, for all this is I don't need anybody to agree with me to validate my decision. I love living in New York City. I love major metropolitan areas. That's where I want to be. But at the same time, I recognize the fact that, hey, there's some people who are supposed to live out in rural farms, who are willing to live. Being a farmer is a hard job. We need people who are willing to do that, to grow the food for the people who are willing to live on top of each other, in order for society to function. Like, if you read, it's not a Timeless Way of Being. It's by Christopher Alexander. And I think that's the name of the trilogy, but it's a pattern language. A pattern language is one of the books in that 3-book series. He starts out with that kind of regional understanding, right? A region has to have that dichotomy. You have to have those people in the rural. You have to have the people in the big city. This guy seems to be saying that Phil Bernstein seems to be saying that he thinks people are going to swing back to the suburbs. I would hate to see that happen. I don't think. One of my fears behind all this is that people who don't know much about urban design or communities are going to use this as an excuse to rally to say that we should stop living in cities and to try to tear down the cities and further develop the suburbs. And I take major issues with the suburbs, man, because I feel like it's more isolating than what happens in cities. In cities, you have more diversity, you have more people, you have more options, you have a more economically diverse center. You have more lively stuff. It's obviously more alive than what's happening out in the suburbs. And I see the value in rural communities, but that's different than the suburbs, right? I don't think you have to be far apart from everything. And here's the other thing. within architecture, like you're probably at one point or another going to get impacted by some type of floodplain. The way we measure floods is with flood zones is you got like the 50-year floodplain, you got the 100-year floodplain. That means that over the course of 100 years, there's going to be one flood that is so big it makes it up to this level. Most of the floods are going to be lower. There's not going to be an issue. Now you still got to prepare for that kind of time, right? Like the Dutch did a really good job at preparing for that because they got canals and barriers everywhere to protect their land that's underwater. New Orleans did not, right? They didn't prepare for the 100-year floodplain, and that was why Katrina was so devastating because they weren't ready for that. Meanwhile, the Dutch live below sea level all the time. They don't really have a problem. They've been better prepared. All right, so the COVID-19 is like the 100-year floodplain because it's literally been like 100 years since the Spanish flu. And maybe there's been some others along the way, but this is like the most dramatic since then. So this is like the 100-year floodplain. How do you prepare for the 100-year floodplain of a virus? I don't know, man. I don't think the answer is we build our entire communities like suburbs and we dismantle our cities. Like there's got to be a better solution.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that we have better business infrastructure, more rapid testing, more PPE. I think that there's plenty of other solutions that don't involve tearing down cities and moving out to suburbs. That would be way more reasonable than that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm both a city mouse and a country mouse. And yeah, I think it's still too early to tell. I could see his point here that people may be wanting to move to suburbs. But what's interesting too is, I feel like it's the millennial generation is, more kind of what you just kind of described, wanting to live in cities. And it's kind of other generations who are really pushing suburbs around the cities, but rather, the American dream, the two kids in the house and the picket fence and all that. Whereas I feel like the millennials, times are different and things are different. And so I feel like there was a rise in people move. The cities have been growing and the countries have been suburbs have been struggling. So I think it's too early to tell on this, but I don't know. I think it depends on how big this COVID-19 is. If this thing keeps resurgencing over and over and over again, and we keep going back into these quarantines where everyone's on home lockdown, I don't know. I think the cities are going to be tough places to live, but
yeah. But I think you got to keep your eye on scale too, because I can see that being a continuous issue for the next year or two. But I think once we have the vaccines in place and the medication in place, then I think that it's going to be a return to some type of normalcy. I don't think that the pandemic is going to be something that lords over us every day. They're talking about it maybe a recurring flu season type of thing. And, that would still suck. But I think that would be less dramatic. I hope that would be less dramatic than what we're dealing with now. But I mean, I'm not a professional in that. I don't know.
Yeah. So what do you think about this article as a whole, Drew? It's good. Here's some good points in here. Or?
I think it's a good summary. I think that it pulls together the variables,
Yeah.
This is what would be affected. And it's cool to see it itemized out in a list that explains each of them with a little blurb. It makes sense. I mean, I think that this is what gets affected by recessions.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to start thinking about these things. I think each one of these items kind of hits an important point to start thinking about. But I think it's never too early to start thinking about these things, but it's kind of interesting to think about how this stuff's going to play out in a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So we'll see. Meme critique. All right. So me and Drew had this idea last week. We're going to use this show to kind of run through some of the latest architecture memes, just memes in general. I look at memes all day long, and it's all I look at. And I see some crazy ones. And so I said, Drew, would it be cool if we could kind of just capture some of the cool memes that we see all week and just kind of review them on our show and talk about it? So let's review them. Let's take a look. I'm going to share my computer screen. Here it is. And let's crack open the first one. I got 7 memes today. If anyone's got any great memes, send them to me or Drew, and we'll talk about them on the show. So this is actually a one from a couple weeks ago. It's from The Blessed One. And by the way, you should follow all of these meme people that I post. So COVID-19 symptoms include having a lack of taste. And here's the people with live, love, laugh, wall decor. Wah, wah, wah. All right. This is from the meme godfather, Scav. I actually had him on the Young Architect podcast. Super interesting dude. So Frank Lloyd Wright quote, all the poo-poo times are pee-pee times, but not all the pee-pee times are poo-poo times. What an inspiration. I think that's a great quote for the topics we've been talking about tonight, this COVID-19 era.
Is that going to affect the way you design your bathrooms, Mike?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a great quote. I should hang that on the wall in the bathroom. All right, Dank Lloyd Wright. This meme account's been on fire for the past couple of, I want to say 2 months now, I guess. All of a sudden, it just started. They post like 20 memes a day, like nonstop, all day long, every day. And at one point, they had this joke about how Richard Meyer was in charge, and they used to post all these really creepy pictures of Richard Meyer and saying that he was in charge of this meme account. And then at one point, they said that the interns fired him, and he's no longer a part of it anymore. And so I cracked a joke. They posted some really terrible meme the other day, and I said, like, you know, this account was better when Richard Meyer was running the show over there. So, but yeah, comparing what is this, Philip Johnson?
Yeah, it's the AT&T building.
Yeah, with the Bob Evans.
What is Bob Evans? That's a restaurant?
Yeah, it's like, I think it's all you can eat, like breakfast buffet in the middle of America. I've eaten there when I was biking across the country. I used to get breakfast there. It's just like some crappy little diner.
How do you feel about those types of buildings? The broken pediment, postmodern.
I think it's ugly as hell.
Yeah, dude, me too.
I'm not into it. It looks like a piece of furniture. It looks like an ugly piece of furniture.
I find it funny how, like, historically people geek out over, like, the open pediment. Like, I kind of get it from architecture school, but I feel like it's kind of a push, you know?
Yeah.
Like, would anybody who hasn't been told that it's supposed to be cool think it's cool? I don't know. Also, decorated shed, I think, is dumb.
I loathe postmodernism. I mean, I worked in the Portland building for 5 years on the 12th floor, and I'll tell you, that building is it was an abusive experience. It was terrible. It was it was awful. It's all about the clothes that building wears. Michael Graves, you know, designed that building with no regard for the health, safety, and welfare of the public. It wasn't built to code when they built it. And every day I would show up to work there, and I just felt like the building was abusing me. And the people that like the lifers, the people who work for the city who were there for 20, 25 years, it was like they were all overweight and sick and had all these issues and diabetes. And like the people that spent the most time in that building were freaking miserable. And I never thought it should have been saved. I honestly, I truly believe they should have knocked it down and started over. And that was when I left. I had a great job with the city of Portland. And I said, I don't want to like fix this piece of shit building. I hate the Portland building. I don't want to work on this for the next 3 or 4 years of my life. And I was like, I'm going to go do something else. And so I left.
Now you sell it on yoga pants or something, don't you?
Yeah. It's always like, it's a bad joke. Yeah. I made a pair of yoga pants with the Portland building on it. And then I made a pair of boxers. I have them right here. You want to see them real quick? I got them right here.
Don't show me your boxers.
Yeah, there. Hold on a second.
I'm moving the camera.
I'm going to turn off
keep this PG.
Dude, I'm going to turn off the screen share for a second. Hold on a second. I made these right before the Architect conference. It's a pair of running shorts that has the Portland building on it.
Okay.
And I always joke and say it's just as ugly as a pair of running shorts as it is a building. So I don't know. It's just like this bad joke that I always, with all this stuff that I designed. So, all right. So there we are. There's our postmodern meme.
And they don't even have biscuits and gravy there either. Unfortunate.
Yeah. As ugly as it is. Yeah. They don't even have the biscuits and gravy. All right, here we go. We got Jesus. So here, have some green roofs. I love you so much. Sprinkling on some green roofs.
What's that supposed to mean?
I don't know. He's just
That's
sprinkling
the
the
solutions.
green roofs are gonna fix everything.
Yeah, man. Green roofs solve
Yeah,
all your problems.
every roof should be green. Oh, okay, so this
This is a
meme.
lot of text.
Oh God, I'll read it in a second. So what kind of the backstory on this is? I don't know, like a week or two ago, NCARB did this webinar about everyone's upset. They canceled everyone's exams for May and yeah, it was April, May, yeah, March, April, May. They canceled everyone's exams, and then starting June 1st, they're going to do 50% testing in the testing centers, and it all makes sense. Like we're going through a weird thing, but NCARB did this webinar that was just terrible, like 2 weeks ago. And after that webinar, someone put up this meme. They wrote, all right, so they said, hey, NCARB, you canceled our exams and put us at the back of the line. Then there's no test dates until the fall. Prometric says one thing while NCARB says something else. All of your communications are confusing. 90% of us do not care about rolling clock extensions or will even need them. Why did you feel it was important to tell us that those taking cybersecurity exams are a higher priority over us taking the ARE? You are making testing accommodations such a lengthy and complicated and confusing process that candidates feel you are creating more barriers for them. Your 5.0 testing software doesn't work. We are worried you are not properly scoring our exams. Why are ARE 5.0 passing rates so low? People are losing their jobs and cannot afford all your fees. How will your yearly fees be adjusted if you're only offering ARE testing at 50%? What have you been doing for the past 3 months? What are you doing to adapt to living in 2020 and beyond? Are you still hungover from your 100-year anniversary celebration? What's going on over there in NCARB world? And that was kind of their answer in the webinar. It was ARE 5.1. Now's the time to let the cat out of the bag. ARE 5.1 is going to fix all of these things. I laughed so hard when I saw this meme, but yeah, I felt like everyone was there that day and they're like, ARE 5.1 is the answer. And they didn't really tell us anything. They didn't tell us when it's going to come out. They didn't really give us anything to work with, no timelines. They just said that ARE 5.1 is really going to fix it all. So that happened. All right, load bearing column. Posted architecture students after designing their website on Squarespace and getting 5+ endorsements for Photoshop on LinkedIn. Building your online brand. Do you want to be successful like me? Well, too bad you can't be.
I like this one.
Yeah, me too. I feel like the online brand and the personal brand's been such a hot topic with everyone lately.
Yeah, for real. And I feel like within architecture schools too, I feel like they pump their own egos a little bit by saying that, oh, architecture students can go do anything. And I believe that if you can pass architecture school, you have the capability to go learn anything. But that doesn't mean you're automatically qualified to be like a web page designer or something like that, or a photographer or a videographer. There's people who spent their 4-year degree studying that thing exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you feel like, oh, you're a pro at building an online brand. It reminds me of there's like a ton of people online talking about they have this online business, and their online business is to tell you how to make an online business.
Yes.
And that's their only online business.
I hate that stuff. I can't handle it. I have a really hard time with those people. It's like, let me teach you how to get a bazillion Instagram followers. And I said, well, how many Instagram followers have you gotten? And they're like, I don't know. They got like 200 Instagram followers. I'm like, come on, I listened to I guess it was a video I was watching, some marketing guy talking, and he was talking about finding a coach. And he says, the very best person you could ever find to help you solve a problem is a person who had the same problem as you and solved it and knows how to help you solve the same exact problem. So then like you said too, there's people that teach you how to have an online business and their business is just teaching people how to have online businesses, like what the hell is that? So there we go. Mr. Rem Koolhaas holding the Animal Crossing. Terraforming the countryside. Have you played Animal Crossing?
I played the OG Animal Crossing on the GameCube back in the day. I have not played the new one, though. I haven't played video games in a long time.
Yeah. I wanted to play it, but those Nintendo Switches are like impossible to get now. They're like It's not happening. So that's it. Those are all the memes.
What do you think's happening with Rem Koolhaas's thing at the Guggenheim?
I have no idea.
I feel like he just had this whole new exhibition open up, and Scav had a really good meme about that one.
Oh yeah.
It was like, it said something like Rem was like, what happens in the countryside? And anthropologists are like, well, I'll show you right here. And then he's like, no one knows. It's a complete mystery.
Oh yeah. I remember now.
And it kind of feels that way. It kind of feels like some professors and stuff think that. And when I lived in Atlanta, I worked with someone who had lived in Europe for a long time and then moved here and only ever lived in Atlanta. And like in Atlanta, like Atlanta is very different than Georgia. Georgia and Atlanta are two very different worlds. And I grew up in Georgia and I lived in Atlanta for a long time. So like those are, I kind of understand the way of life out in the countryside. I get it. I got some respect. I got a lot of respect for it. But seems like a lot of the architects who only know one don't understand the other one. And that goes both ways. And it really was not just architects, it's anyone. I wanted to see his exhibition, his thing, but I was literally thinking like, I'm not sure I should go. The coronavirus thing is happening. So I dragged my feet and I didn't go. And then we got locked down. I feel like this lockdown is going to last the entire time his exhibition was scheduled.
Well, they'll probably leave it up. I could see them leaving it up longer because no one's moving around and no one's coming to the museum. And so maybe, it didn't get its fair run.
Yeah, I just worry that someone else is on the schedule.
Yeah.
To come up next. So I don't know.
I haven't been to the Guggenheim forever.
I want to see what he thinks.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
But the reviews weren't great from what I heard.
Yeah. It's Rem Koolhaas too. It's kind of, you got to see what you get. You never know.
I would be interested to see some architects like really break down Animal Crossing.
Scav's been doing that lately. Here's a shout out to Scav. He's got a new YouTube channel. How do you find it? I think it's the Scav YouTube channel. Let me look right now. He's been breaking down different video games. He reviewed Doom.
Doom.
First. Where is it? Scav. I can't find it. Architecture video games. And then he did Super Mario Brothers. The Super Mario Brothers was excellent. I didn't watch the Doom one. I played Doom as a kid, but it wasn't my favorite. But yeah, he's been making fantastic. Extra Office. That's it. Extra Office. So shout out to him. Yeah, check out his Super Mario Brothers video. It was fantastic.
I want to see that one.
It made me like he's got someone's playing Super Mario Brothers while he's talking about it. And I was like, I don't know, it's got like a blast from the past, It was really well done. So I'm excited to see more architecture video games from him. Architecture critic plays Super Mario Brothers. So Drew, one of the things we didn't talk about in this episode is we don't have a name for this show. What do you think we should call it?
I don't know. One of the things I was prepared to talk about was I feel like the idea of taking the prefix archy and tacking it on any kind of noun or any kind of other word is overplayed, for the record. So we're not going to call this archy anything. I don't think. Except Archy Speak, the Archy Speak podcast. I like those guys, and that's cool. And that was a word already.
Yeah.
They appropriated it properly. I approve of the Archy Speak name. But if we were to call this like Archy Podcast, does that exist? That might exist.
I don't know. I was thinking about calling it MRDPB. Just our initials,
that's all right.
Dude.
It's esoteric enough. It kind of sounds like that MRDV.
Yeah.
MR. Shoot, I should know these.
MR. Yeah, whatever. MRDV.
Every time I think I know it.
Whatever.
Winnie Moss.
MRDKNY. Whatever.
MVRDV is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. So if anyone has any good show names for this,
I'm all right with that.
Send me and Drew a message. Send us some memes too. If you guys see any great memes, tag us in them. We're going to critique some memes. Let's wrap it up. Guys, thanks for being here with us. Thanks for hanging out. You made it all the way. New podcast with me and Drew. We're just going to hang out and shoot the shit and, drink some beer and tequila and talk about architecture.
Mm-hmm. As usual, we got the whole iterative process going on, and we're going to figure out how this is going to work. And yeah, it's going to be cool, I think, looking back at the initial episodes.
Yeah. First episode,
You know what I mean?
couple episodes will be awkward. That's okay.
That's the way it goes. You know, I have intentionally left up my original YouTube videos on the YouTube channel, and those are super awkward, but they're up there, you know? So I think it's important to see kind of how people grow and change.
And I've learned with podcasts, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's like you and I watch it. We're like, oh my God, we're so awkward. But like, I don't know, people, they're not looking at it with the same lens that you and I are looking at it. So I think it'll be great. And I'm excited to have this new show, this new platform, and we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, man. I think this is cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting today, Drew.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Take off. Let's sign off. Adios, everyone. All right.
See you later.
See ya.